On to this matter now. Dysfunctional municipalities and power cuts are lynching small businesses. That's according to the South African Chamber of Commerce and Industry. For more insights on this and some solutions that could potentially be derived, we're joined by Mtho Xulu, who is the president of the Chamber of Commerce and Industry. Thank you very much for your time this afternoon. And perhaps you can start by laying out what exactly is the problem amongst small businesses operating in different municipalities at the moment and how bad it actually is.
Good afternoon, the viewers. Well, look, the most important thing is that local government is a core face of government in its totality. So most local businesses and small businesses are usually a single location business. So their first encounter with government is local municipalities. And that's where, for instance, you need reliable services that are important for you to be able to run and build a business. So your basic services around water, energy, security, and the likes, and needs to always be provided sustainably and consistently by local municipalities. But also at that level, you have the integrated development plans and the LED strategies that are supposed to build infrastructure and drive the local economy. But in a state where municipalities are dysfunctional, those existing infrastructure and the expectations that must come from plans are not being implemented, and leaving local businesses who are based in those municipalities without the government that they can rely on.
And that is a huge problem because we have had big companies previously who have taken municipalities to court, and there are various examples in eThekwini and other municipalities where companies say we're not getting basic services, and this is going to be a problem when it comes to investment opportunities in these communities. How is that affecting those investments and the potential for small businesses to grow in their operating sites?
No, certainly, because there is a disjuncture between, or a misconnect between what we promote at national level as an environment, investment-friendly environment, pushing businesses to come and invest. But ultimately, every business has to be located in a municipality. And it is those local basic services that actually drive their confidence. So we can talk all we want at national level about creating a conducive environment. But if a municipality is unable to maintain its roads, is unable to provide reliable water, is unable to process licensing on time, and generally provide a habitable environment where people can then be brought in and be employed, those investments will not be sustainable. So the policies that we champion at national level practically need to find expression in local government election, meaning that local government has to be rock solid in terms of how they can be a reliable partner in any strategy that we are developing. So you want to have municipalities that are able to be competitive and can attract and keep investment. And currently, if you look at the state of our municipalities, you are unable to bank on them, and therefore no business will sustainably and stably operate in the local municipality that is dysfunctional.
But how do we create rock-solid municipalities, Mtho? Because you will find that in a lot of the financials that are submitted by the municipalities, many of them, if it's not irregular expenditure, they are returning some of the budgets that they've received from National Treasury, which means that they're not using the money that they're receiving as they're supposed to. While the Minister of Finance has said that municipalities will be guarded with a closer eye going forward, that's probably not going to be enough. A lot more oversight is going to be needed so that municipalities not only spend on what they're supposed to, but that the irregular or the criminal spending of financing that they get is cut completely.
Yeah, so the creation of the rock-solid municipality, firstly, we all have as a country to appreciate that every municipality actually needs to be self-sustainable and competitive in its own right. So it's not enough that people are just elected to become councillors and they sit in council and they chart a way forward without actually connecting it to a national development objective that we have. Every town and local municipality is potential in economy on its own. So you need those municipalities not to hide behind a national slogan. They must actually be able to be competitive in their own right and retain their own citizens and their own businesses. And then moving forward, you need a COCTA that is able to implement the various plans that they've had. The cocktail has been working because this thing is not a new problem. It's highlighted by the metros, but municipalities have been struggling for a very long time. So cocktail has been working on strategies on how to improve this. But unfortunately, the implementation is blocked because at local level, there's a different political landscape compared to what the national government is trying to do. And obviously, on the national finance side, you really want National Treasury to be very aggressive in creating a new public-private partnership framework for local municipalities, where if there's no tax base now, how do you bring the private sector in to build those towns into economies and also make sure that national policy around triple Ps is modernized and to build those municipalities as competitive economies on their own. So you need a connection that national government will not just talk about it. Through cocktail national treasury, we must be implementing a very strong oversight, but also consequence management for non-performing municipalities.
What about this issue of load shedding? What conversations do you think municipalities or leaders therein should be having with small and medium businesses so that alternatives can be created to the national energy crisis, which we have seen cripple and shut down many businesses across the country already?
Well, load shedding is a problem cutting across, but through our various chambers in the various towns and cities, a number of them have been very aggressive in being proactive in approaching municipalities to form those local public-private partnerships to say, in our own jurisdiction, what can we do to lessen the impact of load shedding? Unfortunately, those municipalities are still governed by a national law, and its municipal finances are not actually geared to start building energy projects that can be sustainable. First, you still have the big risk of municipalities not even paying ESCOM. So they collect rates and taxes from locals, but they don't pay over there. So you have to deal with the discipline on how to manage energy finances. But moving forward, how do you structure the balance sheet of a municipality to be able to attract those investments so that you can invest at local level, generate energy at local level, and still have the transparency and the professionalism among the municipalities that those partnerships will be able to distribute the electricity and collect the rates and taxes for future investment. So we still really need to make sure that municipalities become investment friendly or even investment attractive, because as they stand now, very few of the municipalities will even be able to collect any money on a triple P basis because their finances are not in order. So we need to fix that, the financial management, the accountability, the governance of municipalities, because without that, you won't even be able to attract sustainably energy solutions and energy finance. So load shedding can be solved at local level, but you need a municipality that is investment ready. And for us to be able to build these units and be able to at least supply in local areas, while ESCOM is still struggling to turn the ship around.
And of course, the viability of the municipalities in Mtho is going to be very important because small to medium businesses are already dealing with higher operating costs because of the inflation, higher electricity costs, higher fuel costs. And of course, small to medium businesses in the country are some of the biggest employers. So municipalities functioning at optimum levels is going to be key for the survival of jobs and businesses in the municipalities.
Well, absolutely. As I mentioned earlier, many of our SMEs are single location businesses. So their economy is largely dependent on the state of living in that particular town or city. So at the very least, we need to make sure that these towns are stable economies in their own right. Municipalities are able to guarantee and provide the necessary services so that those who actually operate in those towns can still run a cost-effective business without having to worry or the need to move to other areas, because they don't always have the opportunity to move. Bigger businesses with multi-locations are able to take advantage of the economies of scale. But local businesses, small businesses who are single location businesses need to have their own towns functioning. And in that way, you'll have a stable economy, at least for now. But if you have a thought leadership in municipalities, you can build those towns into economies and have thriving SMEs in that very own municipality. And if you multiply that by the 250 odd municipalities, you potentially are looking at 250 economies that can sustain and protect our SMEs and obviously create job and drive innovation.
A final thought from you, Mtho. Do you, as SACCI, engage municipalities on a regular basis to try and find some immediate or low-hanging fruit solutions to some of the immediate problems that are being faced by SMMEs?
Yes, lastly, what we are discussing now, and we're trying to give you shine the national spotlight, is work that is being done actually on a daily basis by our various chambers. All our chambers, without fail, are part of the local economic development forums, for instance, that are supposed to be multi-stakeholder forums that are convened by the municipality to develop and implement the energy strategies. So on those platforms, we are always participating. Every year is IDP and budget processes that all our chambers are always participating. Unfortunately, those forums have a lot of discussions, but the implementation, like all our South African problems, that is lacking. So we have the chambers that are willing to partner with municipalities to grow these local economies while we do the work at national level. So once we bring together the stakeholders through those forums that are already legislated, we already have the platforms to make things happen. We just need accountability and implementation that can be overseen by National Treasury and COGTA to make sure that those forums are optimally functional and organizations such as ours are able to bring the solutions forward.
Thank you very much for those insights. That is Mtho Xulu, who is the president of the South African Chamber of Commerce and Industry, talking about the lack of performance in municipalities and how that is impacting small and medium businesses, which really are the bread and butter of many of the community members in which they operate.